What does it take to create a vibrant, thriving life? First, the sad news is that Thoreau was right. Most people are leading quiet lives of desperation, lacking in meaning, fulfillment, and vitality. But we choose more. We choose to create extraordinary lives. And the Art of Vibrant Living show entertains you with inspiration, empowerment, and education to create your life into a masterpiece. It's time. Let's vibe up. Aloha, y'all. Daniel Aaron. I am your host, and this is the Art of Vibrant Living show. We've got a great show, exciting show today. And guess what? It's perfectly in line with the vision of this show. Can you imagine that? What's the vision of the show? You might ask. I'll tell you. It's to empower you to indeed create and live your most vibrant, thriving life. My encouragement: take something that Suzanne brings to you today. There will be much gold. Mine at least one nugget and say, yeah, I'm going to put that into practice. I'm going to try it out in my life, because that's where we create, is when we actually do some of what we're learning. And if you would like to connect with me, if you'd like to be in conversation, that would be awesome. I'd love to meet you and learn how I can be of support to you as well. You can reach out to me, Daniel@danielaaron.com. And let me tell you now about Suzanne. She specializes in guiding high-achieving business owners to unlock their superpowers and confidence. Through events, energy, and upgraded offers, ideal client profiles and content start attracting become so much easier. Suzanne Taylor King, thank you so much for being with us. Welcome.
Hello. Happy to be here. Great to be here today.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I love the range of your gifts, storytelling being one of the pieces I caught as I learned some about you. I've got a little bit of an advantage in that I know you a little now so far. Would you catch up our audience, though? How did you get here? How did you get to be doing this amazing stuff you're doing?
Well, it really started in 2004. I was a dental hygienist and had been a dental hygienist for about 15 years at that point. And I was bored, and I had an event happen in my life, March 10th, 2004, where I got done work early that day, and it just happened to be my mom's birthday. So on my 4-minute drive home from work, instead of calling her at 7 p.m., I called her at 4 p.m. And she had a massive stroke while I was on the phone with her and passed away. And that moment, uh, I can talk about it now very comfortably and very, from this point of learning the lessons that it was there to provide for me. But at the time, it was one of the most horrible things that had ever happened to me. I've been very lucky in my life. And it was one of those moments where I just knew afterwards, it's kind of like, you're going to be different after this. I didn't know how I was going to be different, but it became very apparent through that time and supporting my father through that time that I wanted to live more purposefully and have more impact and not be just working for that paycheck on Friday. And I didn't know what that meant. I had no idea where this journey was going to take me, but I took that first step and started studying nutrition. So I was a dental hygienist, and I thought, okay, nutrition could be a value add for my patients. Let's see where this goes. And that led me to health coaching, which led me to positive psychology study, which led me to mindset work, which led me to more personal development. And I just kept following those breadcrumbs to eventually be able to upgrade who I was as a coach. I didn't even know what coaching was when I started that journey. and lean into my natural talents of being able to build rapport with people, have conversations with people, and really use that to my advantage in my business. And sometime around 2013, 14, I spoke at a business conference about building rapport, and all of these entrepreneurs and business owners were intrigued by what I was talking about. And I
Mm,
thought, have I just found a new niche of people who need me?
mm,
And rather than, taking that work, actually I took it to the entrepreneur community, the mindset pieces, the self-confidence pieces, and one thing led to another. And here I am today. And it was a lot of hard work and a lot of figuring out who I was, holding up that mirror every day. Who do I want to be? How am I operating in the world? You know, I'm a very, very stoic, philosophy oriented person, and looking at those, looking at yourself and examining who I was and how do I want to be in the world. And it really led me to a beautiful place in my coaching practice.
mm. Wow, thank you.
You're welcome.
Beautiful journey that brings up 1,200 questions for me based on what
Yes.
you said.
Yes.
But first, can I ask you a little bit about that moment when you were on
Mhm.
the phone with your mother?
Yes.
Like that, I just can't even imagine that. I personally
Mhm.
have had lots of dark nights of the soul, but
Yes.
will you take us more into that experience? Was it a normal conversation at first, and then it
Well,
just changed?
it was her birthday, and so because I got done work early, I called to wish her happy birthday before, they were gonna go out to dinner, which I knew was happening. My parents lived in Florida, I lived in New Jersey, and, I said, "Happy birthday," and she said, "Why are you calling now?" And I said, "I got done work early, I'm headed home." And she said, "Well, I don't feel very good. I have a
Mm,
headache." And, I said, "What's wrong?" And just nothing.
mm,
And I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "Nothing." And I said, "Get daddy." And when she yelled for my father, she didn't call him by his name.
mm,
She called him daddy.
mm,
"Daddy, daddy, come to the phone." And I
mm,
thought right then, that would never happen with my mother. And I thought something's wrong. Something's
mm,
really wrong. And she looked totally normal. My father got on the phone and he said, "What?" And I said, "Something's wrong." And he said, "She looks fine." I said, "No, she's not fine. Call the ambulance." And it was that intuitive, mother-daughter relationship that we had, whatever it was. And he did. He called the ambulance, and, within about 15 minutes, she was gone.
oh, goodness.
Yeah, yeah, and of
Wow.
course, in that moment, I was single at the time. I had, just met my husband. We were just
Mm,
dating.
mm,
I lived alone, and it was very, very scary being in New Jersey. Like, how do I get there fast enough? Do I just jump in the car and start driving? That was my first uh, thing that do I just jump in the car and start driving? Well, I
mm.
can't. I have a dog. I have a job. Like, what do I do? What do I do? And I called my husband. We had been dating for 3 weeks. And I said, "I need help. I need you to come over and take my dog and help me buy an airline ticket," because at that point I had already had a glass of scotch, and I was like, I need some help and some grounding here." And he's
Mm,
always been that person for
mm,
me. And obviously, the next 3 weeks were a really rough journey in Florida. My boss was very supportive of that time, and I came back changed. I
mm,
came back wanting more,
mm,
but with also some fear of, "Oh my god, is this gonna happen to me?"
mm,
My grandmother had passed away the same way,
mm,
my mom's mom, and so immediately there was this newfound fear in my
mm,
soul, and I had to work very hard, um, to get rid of that fear within myself for a long time,
Mm,
but it really made me want to have a bigger impact. And one
mm,
of the last words my mom said to me was that I needed to share what I knew.
mm,
And I remember that conversation. It was only a couple days before she passed. And I said I knew something about a medication that she was on. I said, "Don't take that with your blood pressure medicine." "Oh," she said, "No, no, it's fine. The doctor said it's fine." Well, it
mm,
wasn't fine and
mm,
caused massive stroke. How did I know that? And it was an intuitive thing again, and I didn't have that word in my vocabulary back then. So I think now, the gift that it's given me was all this evidence that you are intuitive, you are really smart,
mm,
you do know things before they happen, or you know why they're happening when they're happening. And just that ability to feel confident in myself
mm,
about those things has been so transformational,
mm,
not only for me, my family, my clients, but just on that soul level, I now trust myself at a level that I never had before. And it's sad that negative things have to happen, but it really made me appreciate. I got done work 4 hours early that day, which never ever happened,
mm,
ever.
mm,
And for it to happen that day, and for me to call, and for you know, she was on the phone with me when it happened, and thank
mm,
goodness, and I was lucky enough to talk to her before she
mm,
passed, and
mm.
so just gratitude for that.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
really appreciate you sharing all that and being open to it,
Yeah.
which is one clearly a testament to the healing that you've done, right?
Yes.
Because when any of us can talk about the painful and challenging parts of our past, right, without getting sort of sucked down into the pain of it, right now,
Mhm.
and I'm sure there's still plenty of pain there, though clearly you've healed. The other thing that comes to me is negative events like that can be turned into gifts, right?
Yes.
And part of what I heard you say when you spoke about it at first was something in you when you came through that experience said, I want more purpose in my life, right? I want more. Um, and I had
Yeah.
the experience with my own mother who, like, always wanted to do her own thing, but she always worked for somebody else. And she didn't
Mhm.
believe it was possible for her, but because I saw her struggle with that, never get that, somehow that became for me a non-negotiable that, okay, well, even if I'm going to compromise security as we do as
Yes.
entrepreneurs, I will go for what I want. So in a similar way, inspired by that. Um, Now, I've heard you mention a couple times the word confidence,
Mhm.
right? When I introduce you, we use the word superpower. You help people unlock their superpower. You spoke about discovering your intuition in some way. And you didn't say these words exactly, but part of what I heard is learning how to know your intuition, to trust it, to act from it. I have a feeling that one of your superpowers is that connection between intuition and confidence. Is there more you can say about that and your
Mm.
journey with that?
I'm really in this interesting place right now where I'm trying to put words to the journey,
Mm,
um, because I'm writing a book,
mm,
and because I'm coaching a group of clients right now with a daily voice message,
mm,
because I had 11 people ask me how I did something, and I thought to myself, "Oh, I don't know how I do that." So, when that happens, I typically say, "Okay, well, then I'm going to break it down, so if I have to teach it to somebody else, then I'm gonna become more conscious of the process,"
mm.
that
Yeah.
standard SOP for this, right? thinking linearly instead.
Hmm.
And so what I have discovered is that some things that come really, really naturally to me do
Hmm.
not to other people.
Hmm.
And so my gift is simplifying those things, whether it be a process for attracting clients, whether it would be a process for creating clients, creating content, maybe finding your superpower. And for me, that whole entire journey was about developing the internal trust in myself. That voice in my head that was saying, Suzanne, say this, Suzanne, do this, was guiding me in the direction I was supposed to go, and really trusting my thoughts and trusting the fact that I had the knowledge. Now let's just put it on paper and write it down. And that's been such a journey within myself. I mean, it's honestly been the more than like parenthood has been amazing.
Hmm.
Um, but this self-discovery has um it's unlocked a piece of confidence that I didn't know I had.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's really key in getting to that next level in your business. I knew I had to do it. It was
Hmm.
almost you have to do this in order to move forward.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. It's something that's very present for me as well, and something that I personally struggled with, especially earlier in my
Mhm,
life, from going from childhood into adulthood. Um, and I'm with you. It seems to be one of the biggest keys to supporting clients is helping them to trust themselves. So
mhm.
I'm curious, and can you say more about how do you help people with that? How do you encourage people to find confidence and to believe in themselves?
Well, I think it's a combination of an energy of I typically believe in my clients more than they believe in themselves at the beginning, you
Mm,
know? Um, so they trust me, and then they feel this belief and they feel the support. They feel the kindness, the warmth, the generosity, the empathy, the compassion, all the things, but it's more because I know and I'm confident about what they're doing. They kind of borrow that at
mm,
first.
mm,
And since at this point in my career, I only work with the clients that I feel that way about,
mm,
which, because you can't fake that.
mm,
Um, and I think that's makes it even more, rare, and
mm,
makes the relationship that I have with my one-on-one clients so, so special. They're stuck with me for life pretty much after working with me because we develop such a close relationship of trust and giving and sharing, and, um, I love that about what I do.
mm. That's beautiful. Well, and I love what you said too. I'll paraphrase it and see if it still resonates for you. I remember when I first started working with my own teachers and coaches and mentors many years ago. um, I kind of had this realization that part of why I was hiring them was simply to get myself to do the things that I knew to do,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
And these days, there's all kinds of statistics that talk about how much accountability helps in coaching, and people that have a coach for accountability 77% more likely to accomplish what they want, and
Mhm.
all that I believe is true. And there's this buzz phrase that goes around, says, outsource your discipline. And and there's a lot of value to that. And
Mhm.
I'm coming to the place now, and I'm curious how this lands for you, that it's actually encouragement, love, and belief in oneself that matters even more than that.
Mhm.
What I'm finding with the people I work with, clients, or even just people I'm associated with in different ways that I serve outside of a client relationship, that the thing that moves the needle for them the most is when I can transmit to them my belief in them, right?
Mhm.
To a point where they go, "Oh yeah, That's real. I can believe in myself too, even if for a little while until they start to own it. Does that resonate for you? What's your
Yeah,
experience?
exactly, and I think what kind of, is really exciting about that is that it's coaching, it's consulting, it's mentorship, and it's, I think above all 3 of those things, it's being in relationship really deeply with another person. And just because I'm coaching them around their business doesn't mean that everything in their life is not on the table and openly discussed. It really is. And I'll give this example where, somebody that we're working on their business, creating their coaching offers and funnels and, all the things, came to a session and said, "I don't want to talk business today.
Hmm.
Let's just cancel the session." And I said, "Oh, I'm not just here for your business. I'm here for you, you the human,
Hmm.
right? What's happening? What's going on? What are you feeling? I'm happy to talk about that with you." And it was so helpful for him, but it was also helpful for me because now I know him so much better, and it allowed me to see some things in his business that he was bumping up resistance to, and now I understand the little bit of hesitation, why he wasn't moving as fast as I encouraged him to move. And so, in those moments, being a good person is all that's required. He needed me to show up in a certain way at that time. And that's
Hmm.
happened over and over. It used to happen when I was a dental hygienist.
Hmm.
All honesty, you know, somebody's in the chair getting their teeth done and they trusted me and they felt comfortable with me enough to say, this is going on in my life and I'm really struggling right now. And we would talk about it.
Hmm.
And none of my other coworkers understood how people would be that vulnerable with me.
Hmm.
And it's because I gave them the space to be.
Hmm.
And wow, now I can look back and I can say, "Oh, that's one of those superpowers
Hmm.
that didn't come from a coaching certification, didn't come from reading a book. That's just who I was. That's
Hmm.
just who I am." And so isn't that amazing to connect? You can't connect dots forward, unfortunately. You can only connect them when you look back and you really examine things.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, well, let's go a little deeper with that because
Yeah.
I I'm with you. There's one part of people being willing to be vulnerable, sharing themselves, right? Part of that, for sure, just the physics mechanics of it is that you give them space,
Right.
right? Because a lot of people, and I'm sure in doctors' offices, for instance, right,
Mhm.
there's always such a premium on move fast, and you only got you can do this and quick and get the next person, right? So
Mhm.
there's probably in many times there's just not space. Plus, maybe they've got stuff in their mouth and their mouth is numb, but
Yeah,
no, that's
that's
another
true.
story. Right?
That's true.
I'm guessing though there's another element, right? And well, actually, let me stay with this for a second because it's worth highlighting what you said because I know some of our audience are people that are newer into coaching,
Mhm.
and I know for me when I first started teaching, I was so excited and I so wanted to help people. If there was a millisecond of space, it was for me, it was always like, oh, let me tell you this, let me show you this
Yes.
thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the same as space for them to share, right? There's that great this will come around to my question in a second. There's a great quotation, I think it was John Maxwell said, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care, right?
Mhm.
So part of your ability to draw people forward or for them to feel comfortable and share was you gave them space, And what else, though? I believe I'm going to go out on a limb
Mhm.
and guess there's another component or two that facilitates that in your quiver of superpowers.
Well, that really struck me when you said I was so anxious to, help people in the beginning. I overhelped. I
Mm,
helped people without their permission. I
mm,
I gave advice when nobody wanted it, and, because I was so excited just to be sharing what I was learning. And I
mm,
think, being a generally curious person,
mm,
about other people
mm,
really helps.
mm,
Learning to be a good listener
mm,
without the chatter. So this was my own self-sabotage journey, if you will. There was
mm,
lots of negative talk upstairs, "Oh, you can't say that, you shouldn't say that, blah, blah, blah," and it was constant running, running, all it was like my whole life had this narrative running behind it. And I worked, on getting rid of that, on learning that that voice was not me
mm,
and how to manage that. And what that helped with, I mean, it was great for all of my relationships,
mm.
but it allowed me to listen without this telling me what to say next. That creates space.
Mhm.
And space in my head creates space in between the person that you're talking to, and it's almost like it allows something else to happen there in the relationship.
Yeah, beautiful. Right. Well, there's the general principle that all creation is related to destruction, right? It's
Mm,
it's that when we blow something up or we create space, right?
mhm,
Then there's the possibility of creation. So
mm,
you said something great in the midst of that, learning to be a
mhm.
better listener.
Yes.
You mean you can learn how to do that? How'd you do that? How do we
Uh,
do that?
oh my gosh. I first read something by Sid Banks
Hmm,
by way of the coach Michael Neal
hmm,
from one of his books about the 3 principles of thought, and I was like, "Oh, I need to dive into this a little bit." The difference between your thoughts and your thinking, and then the
hmm,
voice behind the thinking, and just putting that into, like, a perspective for myself. And then some Stoic philosophy things helped me look at listening a little bit different, learning to listen like a rock, because a rock doesn't have any thoughts, it's just sitting there listening to
hmm,
you.
hmm,
And I think that just those things in combination, and then practice.
hmm,
I've had well over 10,000 hours one-on-one coaching people, so it's practice, 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 and always being willing to get better at it.
hmm, hmm. Beautiful. Yeah, it sounds like that's a driving force in you is that desire to learn and grow and
Mhm.
expand, right? So, well, on that note, then what's present for you now or these days or recently? What's something that you are working with or growing into right now?
I'm expanding some of my technology knowledge with a coach. So I am learning with an amazing coach about different AI tools and prompting and different software platforms.
Hmm,
And what I'm finding is that I'm 58 years old, and people my age are scared of
hmm,
technology.
hmm,
Many of my clients are over 50 and intimidated by technology. And it's my responsibility, I feel, to simplify that for them. Part of my YOS, my why, what, and how, is to challenge my clients, to challenge people, which I love. I love to say that too. I'd like to challenge you to do something. And um, to simplify things.
Hmm.
So simplifying technology is kind of my theme for the year. And what does that look like? And it's been so fun to expand my knowledge base on different technology platforms. It often comes up in my consulting with larger companies. So it was just a fun place to explore for me.
Nice. I love that. Okay. You love to challenge people.
Hmm.
How come?
I think it's the athlete in me, the competitive nature I have. I was a competitive swimmer when I was younger, and then competitive cycling, and was a fitness instructor, and used to like to motivate people through music and words, and it's always been fun for
Hmm.
me. When I was teaching exercise classes, I remember somebody walking into one of my spin classes and seeing it was me, they were like, "Oh, no, not her today." And actually, she was happy. She was happy it was me, but her initial thought was, "Oh god, no, I wasn't up for that today."
Hmm.
And so that just I think it's my competitive nature that comes out, that I want other people to be the best version of
Hmm.
themselves. It's one of the reasons I call myself a eudaimonologist. Um,
Great. I'm glad you brought that up
yeah,
because
yeah.
I keyed in on that. And of course, one of my favorite words, although I've never heard it as with the IST version at
Yeah,
the
I think that
end.
was first that did that.
Yeah, that's great. I
Woo!
love that. So, would you be up though, or the philosopher and
Mhm,
linguist that you are? Because not everybody quite knows what that is. Would you tell
mhm.
us one what it is and why it's such an important part for you?
Yes, I think when I heard the term daimon,
Hmm.
that your daimon was, the angel on your one shoulder, devil on the other shoulder, your demon. Your daimon is the opposite of your demon. Your
Hmm.
daimon knows exactly what you should do in any given moment. They know that best it knows the best version of you, and you're just not listening. And most people aren't listening because of all the negative chatter in their
Hmm.
head. And once my negative chatter was gone, it was like my daimon, that inner light, that inner best version of Suzanne, the healthy eater, the athlete, the person who sleeps 7 8 hours a night, drinks enough water, has great friends. And yeah, I was like, oh, she's able to come out and shine. So the word always really stood out to me. And then there was some more reading about the correlation between Stoic philosophy and positive psychology.
Hmm.
Positive psychology borrowed a lot of those Stoic principles of resilience and grit and making decisions. And so that's where the human flourishing
Hmm.
is the positive psychology goal, to be a flourishing human. And in Stoic philosophy, it's the pursuit of eudaimonia, to have a good soul. Oh, that's interesting. How do I help people be that best version of themselves through their business vehicle? And that's when I said, I'm calling myself a eudaimonologist. And my branding person, who is my amazing photographer, and she's helped me translate so much of this into actual tangible words for other people.
Hmm.
She said, "No, you can't do that. You cannot call yourself something that nobody knows what it is." And the challenger in me said, "Oh yeah? That's exactly why I wanna call myself that, because it will spark curiosity and questions. And if somebody passes by me and doesn't ask, they're not my people anyway."
Hmm.
And so it was like this gift of, if I'm brave enough to call myself something that very few people know what it is, I think that speaks volumes about the rebel inside of me, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Well,
You're
and that's so I wrote a book called The Art of Spiritual Leadership, right?
Mm,
And so two things come to mind related to that with what you said, because for any of us to create in the world, to do something different, to contribute, to make things better, it means doing something different, right?
Yeah.
If we're doing what's already been done, we're not leading, we're just keeping things the same,
Right.
right? And when I was in the process of the book, I one of the things I spoke about, I'm sure you know about, is there's a linguistic distinction with the words and but, right?
Mhm.
And we have this convention most of us grew up with, say, "Oh, I'd love to do this, but this," or, "You're a wonderful person, but this."
Mhm.
And the syntax basically means this is true, but since this is true, this is no longer true, right? They
Yes.
conflict. That whatever comes after the but rules that out, and that's not how it is in life. It's not, most of the time it's not either or. It's actually both things are true. Like, right?
Mm.
I'm a wonderful father, and sometimes I am impatient. Both of those things are true, right? So the reason I'm bringing this up is in the writing of the book, I make this point about but and so then I feel like, well, I need to practice what I'm preaching. So from then on in the book, I start, instead of using the word but, I use the word and.
Mm.
And my editor, oh, short circuited the poor guy, like his
Oh, yeah.
brain fried. He said, "You can't do that. You can't do that. It's against the rules."
Mhm.
And I actually struggled with it for a little while, like, oh, maybe I should, follow the conventions. And
Mhm.
so, and I didn't, and, so that's to say, I'm with you. And
Amazing.
what's been the impact, right? Calling yourself a eudaimoniast? No, how do you say it?
Eudaimonologist.
Eudaimonologist,
Mhm.
right? So study of, eudaimonia. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And practitioner and teacher, I would venture to say. So what's been the impact for you of owning that, that
Mm.
term that not everybody necessarily knows about?
Well, I think the impact for me personally, it's made me a better parent. It's
Mm,
made me a better partner.
mm,
I think I'm working on having it make me a better friend, uh,
mm,
a better family member in my extended family. And as far as work goes, for me, it's brought more purpose
mm,
to my business coaching. It's brought a deeper level that I go with my clients on their habits and their performance and who they're being as people. Um, and that's brought more satisfaction to me in my work. And
mm,
it's allowed some intellectual property to come out of me, which is going to be my book.
mm,
And I think I think that's what I'm here to do. So being brave enough to take that first step and say, um, I think this is important piece of business that a lot of people are missing,
mm.
the personal journey of business. And how can I bring that into everything I do? And this word was how I was going to do that.
That's awesome. I love it. Right. And I'm right there with you. I refer to the daimon as the supreme self, right?
Mhm.
And we've got our ways, and for myself personally, and with clients, that we work, play, process to create and activate and cultivate that part. I'm
Mm.
curious then for you, how do you do that? How do you engage the daimon, live from that part? I heard you say it's made you a better partner and parent and
Mhm.
business person and friend in process. Um, how do you come in greater contact with that part?
I think for me, I wear a little, red bracelet that reminds me of my daimon, just a little string bracelet.
Mm, mm,
Reminds me in those choice point
mm,
moments, like if I'm choosing to have Oreos and a Diet Coke for lunch, or I'm choosing to have an apple with some peanut butter, right? It's just those little tiny moments that add up and add up and
mm,
add up. And business is the same way,
Mm,
consistency, being true to your word, doing what you say. Whenever I tell somebody I'm going to do something for them, I write it down or I put it in
mm,
my phone, or
mm,
that's important to me. And I think it's allowed that to really shine in my work.
mm,
And, at home, sometimes, you walk away from work and you wanna turn all that off.
mm,
So, that's where the homework comes for me, is with friends and with family when you're tired and you don't feel like doing it
mm.
anymore. That becomes the homework space.
Yeah, so I'm curious if you're up for it because you put friendship in a little bit different category you're working on. Does
Mhm.
that am I hearing correctly that there's a different way of working there or a different challenge for you in that zone?
No, I think, because I have friends from all different, ages in my life, high school friends, college friends, adult friends, other mom friends, and I think, I used to think they were all going to be the same. They were all gonna be the same relationship, and they're not. And I think learning more about myself has, put those different relationships not in categories, not in judgment,
Mm,
but knowing other people like I do, it's kind of like the journey for me is knowing, not having more of an expectation than somebody is capable of, or not expecting someone to be like me, because that doesn't get anywhere. And I think just because my friendships are so varied from different times in my life. I was a different person when I met those people, and that becomes a different journey in the relationship. And I think that's one of the awarenesses I've been having lately
mm,
about different relationships. Like, oh, that one's like that because we've been friends since I was 15 and an insecure hot mess. Oh, that one's like that because that one's from college and I was on my own and confident and outgoing. And oh, that makes sense. The
mm,
person I attracted to be best friends with in college is a totally different person than the ones from high school. No judgment, no, but it's just different because I was different.
mm. Yeah, makes sense. Beautiful. Okay, thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
I love what you said a moment ago about commitment and writing things down. I was just challenging slash teasing a client of mine yesterday, and
Mhm.
he was saying, "Well, sometimes I mess up on commitments because I'm driving and I'm on the phone and I make a commitment, but then I forget about it because I didn't write it down." And my question is, well, are you really committed to it then if you forget it? Right? What
Yeah.
so my question to you, Suzanne, then is because clearly you value commitment to the point that you stated something about it there.
Mhm.
What's the value or importance of commitment?
Oh, well, I think if you're looking to grow a business, uh, it's number 1. You have to do what you say and say what you do. You have to know that if you want to receive referrals or receive great clients from wherever they're gonna come from, you have to be a person of your word. And, if you make a post on Facebook, and I always use this example when somebody asks me about this. If you make a post on Facebook that has some ridiculous income claim that is not true,
Hmm,
and people hire you because of that misinformation that you're putting out there, whether it's an income claim or fake whatever, fake certification or whatever,
hmm,
somebody hires you because of that. Who are you being in
hmm,
that moment? Um, we're both fans of Steve Hardison, and it became very apparent in his book, The Ultimate Coach, about that was more important. So to me, commitment means I'm not going to sugarcoat things with my clients, but I'm
mm,
also not going to say things that aren't true. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna do something if I have no intention of writing it down. And with technology how it is, I can be in my car on the phone and say, "Okay, I will email you XYZ," and as soon as I'm off the call, I send myself a reminder, and when I get home to my computer, that reminder is right there. And I think just embracing technology when it comes to that. Um, yeah, and I think it's from my dad. I think if we
mm,
go all the way back, um, commitment and your word, he was a military guy, and
mm,
that was very, very important. And if I did get caught lying a couple times as a child, and that would never happen again,
mm, mm.
you know?
That lesson came clear for you, it sounds like.
It did because of not because of a beating or a punishment, because of the disappointment of
Mm,
disappointing my parents. And I was
mm,
an only child, had a great childhood, great parents, very lucky in that department. And I remember lying about where I was, older teenager. I was driving and I lied because
mm,
I knew I wasn't allowed to be where I was with the car, and there was no way that they would know
mm.
because there was no technology. Like, I can pick up my phone right now and tell where my son's at, but that wasn't around back then.
Yeah.
And I remember the feeling of my dad looking at me and just shaking his head and walking away.
Mm,
A and I was like, "Oh, he knows.
mm,
He knows where I was." How does he know where I was? And just the feeling of disappointing somebody that loves me, has carried weight with me my whole life. Did it
mm.
make me a little bit of a people pleaser in the beginning of my business journey? Yes, absolutely. But learning that and translating that into, "Oh, okay, it's not people pleasing if I'm committed to doing what I say."
Right, right. Yeah, and in fact, sometimes it's displeasing to people,
Yes,
right? Yes, I'm with you.
yes,
Well,
yes.
and so 2 things come to mind as you say that. One is one of my mentors tells a story I love, which is when he was, I don't know, I think about 10 years old, his father asked him something and just a casual conversation at first. And he said to him, "Well, to be honest, Pop," and, which is obviously a common expression. And
Mhm.
as soon as he said it, his father just raised up his hand, not to hit him, but just like, "Stop," said, "Stop." And he was like, what happened?" He's like, "Don't ever say 'to be honest,' because that implies there would be a time when you're not honest."
Yes.
And my friend, mentor, he just, that moment was like, whew, time froze for him,
Yeah.
it landed for him there.
Mhm.
And I'm curious because you described, one, the importance of honesty and commitment. Part of the lesson coming for you by the feeling you had of disappointing your father by not being honest. And we
Mhm.
spoke earlier about intuition and confidence. And do you see, or is there some relationship in the way you're looking at the world and the way you're working between commitment and honesty and confidence and intuition?
Mm. I never really thought about it in that way, but I think the connection, if you're always honest and you always do what you say, it brings a level of confidence that there's nothing for anybody to find out.
Mm,
I'm a pretty open book when it comes to my story.
mm,
There's nothing there that I haven't talked about somewhere. I've written a couple chapters in books, so about
mm,
other parts of my journey.
mm,
So, it's almost like, "Oh, well, there's nothing to find out.
mm,
There's nothing to, um if I'm true to my word and I do what I say, I don't know. It brings a different level of uh, peace in the world, like, and I translate that to confidence. And um, yeah, I think that would be the connection for me.
Yeah, that makes good sense. Thank you.
Hmm.
I often think about it in terms of like, because I put it like you, I put a high premium on doing what I say, right?
Hmm.
And of course, I'm not 100%, though in the high 90s. And I clarify as soon as I don't do something that I say. Um, and I feel like that's part of what, and increasingly so, gives me the confidence to make claims to the universe or God and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to create this,
Yes.
even when I don't know how, right?
Yes.
Even to like to be at that kind of force of creation, it for me feels like it's built on a foundation of consistently doing what I say, right?
Well,
Um,
I love that because your brain, if you talk negative to yourself, um, and my chatter was like always on repeat. And if you do that enough, you actually become that. Like,
mm,
so it's your subconscious just showing you the evidence that, oh yeah, you're right. You're this, this, and this.
yeah.
And the alternative was saying replacing those negative chatters with positive things. And
Mm,
that was always a little bit of a challenge. I did better with silence rather than saying positive things to myself. But I did get in the habit of whenever I decided I wanted to do something, or be something, or have something, I would write it down like
mm,
I already had it.
mm,
And I just did it this week, and I'll put it out there. I
mm,
wrote in my planner, it's so great to have been invited to speak at Business Mastery with Tony Robbins.
mm,
And it's right in my planner that it already happened that day.
mm,
Oh. And I started getting in the habit of doing that. And I really want this certain car, and I'm
mm,
working on that. And so I say I already have it. My son
mm,
gets his driver's license in 2 years, and I say, "That's what I'm getting." And my
mm,
husband rolls his eyes, like, I'm not sure you're getting that." And I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm sure I'm getting that." And I write it like it's already happened, it's already happened, it's already happened. And the car dealership that's closest to my house had a used one, exactly what I wanted, color, interior, everything, make, model, all of it, right in the front row. And I pulled right in, and this was a couple months ago. My son goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "They have my car. They have my
mm,
car. It's sitting right there. It's getting closer." And he was like, "Oh my God, we're manifesting that car, are we?" And I said, "Yes." And I parked, I got out, I touched it, I looked at it. How much is it? And when I looked at how much it was a couple years old, mind you, but when I looked at the price, I was like, I could buy that right now. I could
mm,
I can have that right now. It is within my reach, and I had placed it a little bit more expensive than
mm,
it actually is, or was at me standing there in that. And if my son hadn't been with me that day, I would have driven it. I would have
mm,
taken it
mm.
for a test drive and felt it. And that's how I do everything now. And it's really, some things take longer than others, but if you're doing the daily, you have to do the work. I can't just say, "Oh, I wish I had a Porsche 911." No, it's not gonna drop in my driveway. I have to take the steps to make that happen. Same thing with, speaking on stage at Business Mastery. Well, that writing that made me say to myself, "Well, how do I make that happen?" And as
Mm,
soon as I ask myself how, I'm gonna go figure it out. I'm gonna
mm.
figure out who I need to talk to, who do I need to meet. Maybe it's gonna take me 5 years, but I'm gonna start that momentum going. And I think that's a fun place to play in.
Totally fun place to play
Yeah.
in. Thank you. That's great.
You're
I love
welcome.
that. And I love your phrasing too. So great to have been invited to speak. You don't actually have to say yes still, right? You
Yeah.
still have the
Yeah.
option with it.
Yes.
Um, and I think you already gave away the secret there. Is the car that you're creating for yourself? Is it the Porsche 911?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good. Awesome. All
Yes.
right. Cool. So time's flying along here for us, Suzanne, and I'm thinking that you have a gift for the audience. Is that right?
I do, and I don't, am I giving you a link for that? Or I think I supplied one link on my form, but yes, my gift is all of my resources from when I give a talk about charisma and attracting
Mm,
people to you for your business. And
mm,
it's an awesome talk. You can get the replay of the talk, all the resources, the slide deck. And I give 3 tools to enhance your charisma. And those tools are right on that page, as well as my storytelling
mm,
framework. So, how you can get better at
mm.
having those go to stories to, be on podcasts or using talks or using client sessions. Because your experience, I truly believe that your personal experience is one of the magic things that need to come out as a coach.
100%. I agree with you completely. That what a great, amazing gift. And it's possible that that I didn't get the link in the way I was expecting. So
Okay.
can you tell us? Can I type it into the chat now?
I can grab it. Hold on 1 second, and then I can put it
Grab it.
right
Okay.
into the chat.
Perfect. All right. Awesome. And so, yeah, bringing one's own story, that level of ownership and transparency, and bringing that forward as one of our superpowers. Such a
Yeah.
powerful, beautiful lesson. Thank you for that.
You're so welcome. I think it's one of the things that, um, I I don't know, it makes me almost emotional to think about it. I'm grabbing this link for you real quickly.
Yeah.
I think it makes me almost look back at who I was, 15 years ago
Mm,
and think, "Oh, if I could only talk to you for an hour
mm, mm.
before," but then it wouldn't be the same, because the journey had so many ups and downs in businesses and income and, trying to find my niche and my offers. And I struggled with that until that confidence piece came. And I
Yeah.
think, that's almost the reason why I do what I do now is to help people shortcut that.
Mm,
It took
mm.
me 15 years to, decipher all of that information for myself, and helping somebody to do that and navigate that within a year is an incredible, incredible, like, give back, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it's definitely been harder than I thought, but way more rewarding than I thought.
Mm,
So, and like I said earlier, I can't connect the dots going forward, and I couldn't back then. I couldn't know where I was gonna end up, um, and I'm not done. There's
mm,
still more evolution to
yeah.
happen, but the fact that I can look back now and have it all make sense,
Mm.
um, that's pretty cool.
Really cool. Yeah. And that ties in nicely to what we were speaking about before about one of the gifts that you bring and that we as coaches bring to our clients is we can convey a level of confidence and trust and belief that's hard to get. And I'm just like you, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, the level of confidence that I had then was very different. So
Yeah.
the journey has given me the ability to be confident for others, to say, yeah, I can see where you are because I was in a
Mhm.
really similar place. And
Yes.
if you just keep showing up, we're going to break through. You're going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, at least at least for me, I have just a new understanding of why it felt so hard about why it felt difficult. And,
Mm,
all of that introspection, all of that self study. I think I did 17 different assessments. I worked with a coach on my own journey. I did numerous healers and inner child work and, all the things to
mhm,
heal whatever I was struggling with. And the biggest impact was the self chatter, the
mm,
talk inside of my head of you're
mm.
fat, you're old, you're ugly, you're not smart enough, you're not that, blah, 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 all day, every day affects how you show up in the world if that's what you're listening to. It's kind of like you put AirPods in your ears and listen to negative stuff about yourself all day long, and turning that volume off on that, just saying no thank you. And I did a lot of work to make that happen. It wasn't just an overnight decision. And I remember the day so distinctly when I was sitting on my porch writing in my journal, and I was like, "It's gone."
Hmm.
And I cried. I
Hmm.
I sat there with nothing happening in my head except what I was writing, and it's like, it's over. I'm done
Hmm.
I'm done judging myself.
Hmm.
I'm done being mean to
Hmm.
myself." And there's been little glimpses when it comes back once in a while, but I have the tools now to not go there.
Yep.
And that freedom, that space that I created, it's allowed my creativity to shine and my intuition to shine, and so much more is possible when you don't have that.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
I can feel that. And your generous gift I have put into the comments, and it's on the screen for y'all that are
Yes.
seeing there. You can copy that. That's charisma.suzanne taylorking.com at charisma talk 169 900 is how you get to that. And time has flown, Suzanne. We're going to need to wrap up. I'm going to ask you one last question. It's a huge, massive question,
Oh
and
boy.
I want your response to be the teeniest, tiniest. It's impossible. It's such a big question, right?
Okay.
Which means you can't fail. So that's a good thing.
Okay.
So, given all of your experience and knowledge, if you had to boil that down, distill it into one thing,
Mhm.
and one thing to say that would help our audience to live their most vibrant, thriving life, what is that one thing?
Take care of your body. It's the only one you have.
Mm, beautiful. Yep. That's the vessel, the vehicle. Makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense.
Yeah. Love,
Awesome.
love, respect, water, good food, and be kind to it.
I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Suzanne, what a gift it has been to be with you here. Thank you so much for investing this time with us and sharing so generously and authentically your experience and insights and wisdom. Really appreciate that, and I look forward to staying connected. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such a great conversation, asking such great questions, and appreciate you.
Oh, my pleasure. Awesome. All right, and for y'all in our audience, thank you. You make this fun, awesome, inspiring, and fulfilling. Again, I invite you, encourage you, implore you, take some of the gold that Suzanne brought and apply it in your life today. Let's be in touch. Thank you for being with us, and hopefully I will see you soon. In the meantime, please continue to make your life a mahalo for tuning in to the Art of Vibrant Living show, y'all. I'm Daniel Aaron, and may you live with great vibrancy.